Hey y'all. So today we are brewing with Uprising, and let's get right into it. My opponent's on Dromai and I'm on Iyslander, and my opponent won the die roll and is choosing to go first. Definitely makes sense. Dromai wants to set up the Ash and get the dragons out ASAP. This is a very tough matchup for Iyslander, and really our only saving grace is that from what I understand of the other Dromais who have been brewing and testing, a number of them have started cutting Thors from their list. And that is basically the only way Iyslander even has a chance. The way I see this matchup is that it starts off as like a 60-40 in favor of Dromai, and then for each Thor that Dromai brings in, it goes, 10 points towards Dromai's way. So if they bring in all three Thors, I believe it's like a 90-10 for Dromai, which is very unfortunate. But yeah, here we are. So our opponent starts off with making an Ash Ring. They play to Rake the Embers. And then they play Yunderai. And yeah, it's stuff like these dragons. It's very hard for Island to get rid of, which is why I've brought in 6 Phantasm Poppers. I've got 3 Command and Conquers and 3 Erase Faces in the list, just to help pop lane some of these tougher dragons. So our game plan is going to be to just slow the game down until we can get to a Frost Hex endgame. And we slow the game down by ending our Dromai's turn, our opponent Dromai's turn, with stuff like, popping their dragon, or stuff like hypothermia, blizzards, or just like several frostbites that they can't attack anymore. Trying to, kill the dragons as they come is going to be just not very possible with a sort of deck that Iyslander wants to run, full of blues. So that is our game plan. So we went ahead and popped our opponent's dragon turn 1. Just get rid of the Yunderai, and we go to R10, and we want to start setting up our things that will slow the game down. Insidious Chill, I love this card after testing with it. It is amazing for just, slowing down your aggressive opponents. Or in this case, slowing down, Dromai is like just dragon generation. So we play that, and then the question is, what do we want to Arsenal? And I choose to Arsenal the Singe over the Cold Snap, because this is another way you can just end the Dromai's turn. If they attack with an Ash Ring, and you kill it before, like just in the blocking phase, the go again from the Ash Ring does not resolve, and then the opponent is left with no action point. So stuff like Singe and the other, just like blue ice spines and stuff, very good for just killing the dragon while it's attacking and ending your opponent's turn. And this way we're buying time to find the Frost Hexes, and once we get enough of them, we can, start actually dealing damage to our opponent. Okay, opponent starts with Billowing Mirage. Okay, and then they make a Dromai, and Dromai is one of those dragons that's also very difficult for Iyslander to deal with. Dromai and Yunderai are both, very threatening dragons. Yunderai, because you can't, there's nothing you have like you can kill it while it's attacking to stop the combat chain. Dromai, blue Frostbolt will kill it while it's on the combat chain, but the worst thing about Dromai is that it gives them an action point the moment it attacks. So, even if you kill in response, or you hypothermia them, like they will still have the action point to continue doing stuff. So Dromai is a pretty high threat. So the moment I see the Dromai, I realize my plan needs to change. I wanted to, singe the Ash Ring and my opponent. But once I see the Dromai, I prioritize that, and I'm just gonna Ice Bolt it on my turn and just leave the Singe in my arsenal for now. Because if I Ice Bolt the Dromai, like if I Singe, I won't be able to Ice Bolt the Dromai. So yeah, and I don't want to take damage. Yep, so get that dragon off the board. And just reiterating here, yeah, we are just buying time until we find the Frost Hexes. Okay. Put him coming in with the blue, pitching a red because they need to generate more ash. And this is just 1, so we're going to take it. Alright, then our opponent plays Mirajai, I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that, which is a little annoying, because we do run poppers in the deck to shut down the combat chain. But it's not as annoying as Dromai. Also, 4 health means it's difficult for us to get rid of it anyway. Okay, and then they attack with the Mirage, and we are in a bit of an awkward spot with holding 2 reds, which means we have 1 blue to pitch for now, and the other blue needs to go in our arsenal. So I can't de-react, play the Singe, and also do the Moon because I don't have my Tunic up right now. So yeah, so I choose not to block that, and then I'm going to, yeah, free up my arsenal by singeing my opponent and the dragon, and use the last 2 floating to Waning Moon for 3. This means that on the following turn, I'm going to have Tunic up and Singe in my arsenal, and my de-react in hand, which means I will be able to do Singe, de-react, Waning Moon off of the Tunic, and 1 blue. Yep, and on our turn we just processing our opponent for 3. Yeah, and we hold the red de-react. Red de-react is also another thing that just helps slow the opponent, slow the game down. Either my opponent needs to pitch to AB if they have a bunch of Ash Wings out, or, they get like a bunch of Frostbites and it probably just ends their turn. So my opponent currently does have AB1 on that Stilettos. So yep, they pitch 1 to that and they make an Ash. And we know they were kind of struggling with Ash just now, so it is really good for them that that they're able to pitch to that and make some Ash on my turn. Okay, and then they start with Uvia, and Uvia is probably arguably the worst dragon for Iyslander. Like without one of my poppers, I can't deal with this dragon at all, and it just keeps making the board bigger with stuff I can't really deal with. So once I see Uvia and once my opponent gets an army of Ash Wings, my only hope is to end their turn with stuff like Hypothermia, stuff like a bunch of Frostbites. Okay, opponent plays the Uvia and triggers it immediately. And we have drawn 2 D-reacts, which is actually kind of awkward. You don't want to have too many of these D-reacts in your hand, because in Iyslander, you don't want to arsenal these D-reacts. You need a blue in your arsenal that you can play so that you can activate your Waning Moon after you D-react. So the D-react needs to be in your hand, so having so many of them is a little awkward, especially when our opponent, plays a CNC on us. Because obviously I can't de-react this, so that's pretty annoying. I go ahead and play my arsenal card because, right, CNC's threatening it, just play it out. But here's the thing, with this hand I actually can't block this CNC. Because I need the blue Winter's Bite in my arsenal if I want to try and do the defense reaction play next turn. So yeah, I just go ahead and take 6 here. But I don't want to go into my opponent's turn holding on to do two D reacts as we saw just now. It was very awkward. So I go ahead and pitch the yellow one and use Tunic to activate Coronet's Peak. I have to say I've come around to liking Coronet's Peak a lot more. At first, when I first saw it spoiled, I was very skeptical. But after playing with it, it really fits the play pattern that Iyslander wants to do, where you use 3 cards on your opponent's turn. Like 1 pitch card, 1 card you play from your arsenal, and 1 like blocking card. And on your turn, you have 2 cards remaining. You pitch one of them into a Coronet's Peak, and you arsenal the other one. So that, I really like that play pattern. And then we go ahead and drop, and we draw another D-react. We got rid of one, immediately drew another one. I run 5 of these in the deck, so it's not exactly very unlikely. But yeah, let's just hope we don't get CNC'd again. Okay, and our opponent plays an attack, and this one we can D-react. So we can D-react and probably end our opponent's turn. Yep, so I start with the Winter's Bite. Let's get some information on what our opponent has. Like, do they have a blue? Or are they just gonna, pitch a red to this Winter's Bite? Okay, so they did have a blue. But they only have 1 AB right now. We have singed away the other Ash Wings. So they only have 1 AB right now, which means a Waning Moon should be able to come in for 2, give them 2 Frostbites, and likely end their turn. Oh, right. My opponent forgot the Uber trigger at the beginning of the turn, and I just let them have it, of course. I mean, it was just a casual game where both, trying to learn from these decks and stuff. So I fuse my defense reaction, and that triggers the Insidious Chill. And yeah, the Insidious Chill working with the D-React, they have such good synergy with each other. You pressure their hand or you pressure their resources, which makes it hard for them to block the Waning Moon afterwards, which means they get more Frostbites. It feels really good when you have, one or two Insidious Chills on the board. Also, we have drawn up our Hypothermia, so we know we will be able to just shut down our opponent's turn, at least on the following turn. Yep, and then our opponent uses their 2 floating to pay for the Insidious Chill, and then we go in a Waning Moon for 3, which we can do because we have played a Winter's Bite this turn, non-attack. And then they take all 3, so they want to arsenal that last card, and they go up to 4 Frostbites. We take the damage here, and yeah, that's the end of our opponent's turn. So this is the sort of play pattern we want to keep on doing. Just slow our opponent down until we manage to get Frost Axes on them. And a play like what I just did, when they have 1 or 2 Frost Axes on them, deals so much damage that that is the game plan we're going for. And we have drawn up into our first Frost Hex. And we've drawn up into this while having Hypothermia in our arsenal, so that's very nice. We know we can probably shut our opponent down this turn. Okay, opponent goes ahead and triggers Uvia at the start of the turn. Okay, and then our opponent, comes at us with an erased face, which obviously Hypothermia doesn't do anything to, because, erased face doesn't have go again. So this is clearly the only attack my opponent's coming at me with this turn. I guess they didn't draw any dragons, anything good, so this is what they're doing, which honestly is a little awkward. I don't want to block with a Frost Hex. If I pay into the D-React and block with a card, I won't be able to pay for the Frost Hex on my turn. So I could pay into the D-React, but then I won't be able to use Waning Moon because I don't want to play, because I wouldn't have played a non-attack yet unless I play out this Hypothermia, which I don't want to do because that's just bad when my opponent comes at me in a raised face. Yeah, so the best thing for me to do is just block 3 and take 3. And I guess consider this a blessing that my opponent isn't coming at me with a bunch of dragons. Because I get to save my Hypothermia for 1 more turn. I would say that's worth 3 damage. So that's alright. And we get to, do a Frost Hex on our opponent. So yeah, this is definitely, rare that I'm, like, my action phase playing Frost Hex. Usually it's, on the opponent's turn. But yeah, go ahead and do that, and I go ahead and pitch this D-React away to Waning Moon for 2. Because since I have Hypothermia in my arsenal already, I don't think I need that D-React to stop my opponent's turn, and I can just dig further for my next Frost Hex. Also remember, I still have 5 more Phantasm Poppers in the deck, which, won't pop the first dragon because I'm Mirage guy, but, it'll still stop most of the damage. I just popped the second dragon. So, I believe and also Channel Lake Frigid is really good for stopping your opponent's turn. Oh, when they want to ping you with a bunch of dragons, they won't be able to pay. So, I believe that I have enough tools left in my deck to slow down my opponent that I can pitch this D-React right now and try and just chip at our opponent. Okay, and our opponent plays Oasis Respite to Respite to block our damage and goes over to them. So that might seem inefficient that they use Oasis Respite on that. Except, Iyslander doesn't really come with too much more damage than like 2 or 3. I believe 3 is kind of the most damage from one source that I do, which is just Waning Moon on their turn. So, that's they aren't usually getting more value than blocking 2 or 3 anyway. Right, opponent triggers Uvia on their turn, and we had some TTS issues unsticking those Aether Ash Rings. Okay, and they play another Dromai, which is very frustrating. I do not like seeing this, especially when I have Hypothermia. This means that, they will be able to attack with 1 more dragon after the Dromai attacks. So Iyslander requires a fair bit of planning, and I know that what I want to do on my turn is arsenal the Frost Hex, which means I only have my remaining 3 cards to play around with right now. Opponent is coming out into the Dromai. They still get their action point. The Dromai loses go again, but they're going to have 1 action point and a Frostbite. And I'm deciding whether it's worth it for me to play my D-React here. And or do I just block? And I believe I like to not play the D-React here because I already have Hypothermia that's ending my opponent's turn right now. And if I save my D-React, I'm going to have like one more turn where I can just end my opponent's turn. And I have to say, based on how this turned out later on, I'm not entirely sure whether this was the correct decision. And, we'll go into that in the next turn when it's more relevant. Yeah, so I know there's only going to be one more dragon, and I'm deciding whether I want to take this damage to be able to Aether Hail the Dromai, or do I just block? And I end up deciding to just block because, because I'm going to be able to put a second Frost Hex on my opponent and, do a D-React play, which means I'm getting to the end state that I want. 2 Frost Hexes is honestly usually enough to try and kill your opponent. Just, chip at them with a D-React and giving them a bunch of Frostbites. So I think it's probably time that I stop trying, it's probably time that I don't need to care so much about leaving Dromai on the field. At least it's not something I want to deliberately take damage for right now. And our opponent stops attacking because I won Frostbite from playing Hypothermia. They don't want to pitch into it, and their turn's over. Okay, and we again have the option to play Frost Hex on our action phase, but I don't want to do that because then I'm arseling the D-React, and I already explained why I don't like doing that. So and this is another one of those cases where I'm like, okay, Coordinates Peak actually doing work here. I just, pitch my excess blue into Coordinates Peak, get to Arsenal the Frost Hex. So I still get a card from my opponent, which is great when I'm trying to slow them down. And I get the card I want to Arsenal. All right, so we draw up, and here's where I'm reconsidering my decision the previous turn to not play out the D-React, because I knew that I want to Arsenal the Frost Hex. And so if I commit to holding this D-React, it means on my turn, if I want to do the D-React and play Frost Hex, and the thing is I kind of need to do my D-React, because if I don't slow my opponent down enough, because playing a Frost Hex just gives them 1 Frostbite, doesn't slow them down enough. I need to do a D-React fused to Waning Moon and actually, end their turn. So for me to do that, I need to pitch 2 blues. That pays for the Frost Hex, the D-React, and the Waning Moon. And of course play the D-React and the Frost Hex, which only leaves me with 1 card left. Which means that if that 1 card I have remaining is not a blue, I actually lose value in arsenaling it, because it doesn't do anything in the arsenal, for Islander's purposes. So here's why I'm reconsidering my decision earlier to not have played the D-React. At the same time, me not using the D-React earlier means I do get to slow my opponent down, but this is going to lead into a bit of an awkward play on my following turn, which, again, I'll talk about it when I get there. Yeah, Islander definitely the kind of heroes where it's like your decisions 2 turns ago may affect, kind of affects what you're about to do, which is really cool about the hero. I do like that. So our opponent plays the Burn Them All, and we take the Arcane from the Dromai attacking. And then, we have to go ahead and do our Frost Hex thing. The reason I did not respond to the Burn Them All playing the Frost Hex is because I need to keep this Amulet of Ice in hand to fuse the D-React with. And I also need to pitch the Amulet of Ice afterward to play the Frost Hex. So I kind of need to wait for my opponent's first attack before I can play the Frost Hex, because I need to play the D-React first. So we're going to play the D-React, trigger and Citrus Chill again. And that's what I mean by the D-React really slowing our opponent down. It's like within Citrus Chill, it's really doing double duty. Pressure a card from them and, Waning Moon threatening Frostbites. Okay, so now we can pitch the Amulet of Ice to play the Frost Hex and use the 2 floating to Waning Moon for 3, threatening a bunch of Frostbites. Alright, and our opponent, uses their 3 Arcane Barrier on the Ashwings to pay for it. But they have none floating to be able to attack on more dragons because of the 1 Frostbite from playing the Frost Hex. Why these Aether Ashwings need to have Arcane Barrier, I'm really not sure. The matchup is already terribly unfavored for Islander as it is, without that mechanic. So you know, just, yeah. Cool, there we go. So now we go to our turn. This is what I mean by, you know, if I'm committing to playing, using 2 blues and a D-React and a Frost-X, the last card I'm left with may not be a blue, like in this case it wasn't. So now I play it, and I just use it to get rid of the Dromai. And now I'm left with no arsenal. So, yeah, so this leads to a bit of an awkward play this turn. Yep, opponent plays Yunderai. Frustrating. Yeah, so at this point, with 2 Frost X's up, my plan is I just need to stem the bleeding, just like not take damage and just put as many Frostbites as I can. And I'm not looking to clear any more dragons, except if it's with a Phantasm Popper. Alright, opponent attacks with Yunderai. This does not have Phantasm because of the Mirror guy. So, it's a very safe attack from opponent. They know we are running Poppers. We popped the first Yunderai they played this turn, this game. Yeah. So I take the Arcane and I go ahead and block the Yunderai. Yeah, then opponent attacks with a blue, sweeping blow, we take a damage. No point blocking that. And then attack with an Ashwing, and here's what I meant about the whole, not being able to Arsenal the previous turn, has led me to need to, well, I guess I don't need to, but I felt like I had to activate Storm Striders here. If I activate Storm Striders and kill this Ashwing as it's attacking, it dies before the go again resolves, and it ends my opponent's turn. So, and I feel like I'm okay making that play because I have Hypothermia. Hypothermia in my hand, which I know I can Arsenal, which will end my opponent's next turn. And then I have 5 more Phantasm Poppers in the deck, which will also end my opponent's turn. Still have 1 more Hypothermia, still have, Channel Lake Frigids. So I feel kind of forced to do this. And the only reason I had to do this was because of the 2 turns ago, committing to 2 blues, using 4 of my cards to Frost X and D-React my opponent. And that left me with a card that wasn't a blue, which I couldn't Arsenal. So, yeah. So there we go. Storm Triders, Icebind at the Ashwing. Very glad our opponent attacked with the Ashwing instead. It made sense from an opponent's point of view. You attack with a big dragon first that doesn't have Phantasm, and then you do the smaller ones because if your opponent has a Popper, then, you just lose a smaller one first instead of like one of the big ones. But it worked out for us because we didn't have the Popper and we can actually Icebind the smaller one. As they attacked with the bigger ones first, we would have had to just take it. And then we use the 2 float to Waning Moon our opponent, and they block it completely. Yep, our turn will just be pass. Get to Arsenal Hypothermia, so we're feeling safe. We do not draw into another Hypothermia or any of our Poppers yet. So, for next turn, we are looking a little weak on the ending opponent's turn plan. But let's say, I mean, with that many Poppers left in the deck, we are likely to draw it. Oh yeah, opponent just handling the Burn Them All trigger, forgot to do it at the end of the last turn. Right, opponent triggers Uvia. Gets another Ashwing. Okay, and then they come with a CNC. So honestly, so much for our plan of Hypothermia and Arsenal to stop our opponent's turn. So yeah, I mean, we don't have much of a choice here. We have to block this. Having a Hypothermia and Arsenal is very, very key to help us survive. And we have 2 non-blocks, so really this is a bit of a no choice, a bit of a forced block. And obviously this was not a situation where you could just play an Arsenal card because it would have no effect. Because the CNC does not have go again, they're not attacking any more dragons. So playing it would have just exploded. It would have just gone away at the end of their turn, and then, we're sad that we just wasted one of the best cards in this matchup. Like, one of our best tools in this matchup. Alright, and then, we could activate Coronet Peak here. But I figured it's probably better to, play out this Amulet of Ice. Our Insidious Chill is, running out. Play Amulet of Ice and then just Waning Moon opponent. It's also more efficient. We use both the cards instead of just one. And yeah, Insidious Chill, man, it's like 3 Amulets of Ice in one. It's so good. Okay, and the opponent just takes a 2. So, we are getting there, grinding them down. And then we draw into, 3 of our most disruptive cards at once. 2 channels and a Hypothermia. So not the best. Nice to see them all spread out. But it's fine, because we know we still have 5 Paupers in the deck. They have just been hiding from me. So, I'm okay, like, getting rid of, like, 1 or 2 of these. I can come into Arsenal in the Hypothermia, get rid of the other 2, and then hopefully draw into a Pauper. And for the sort of Frostbite endgame we're looking for, Ice Eternal is actually really good at just dumping a bunch of Frostbites on an opponent. And also the defense reaction. So opponent's coming at us with 5 attack with a natural go against. Hypothermia does not affect this. It's a little sad for us. So we're just gonna use one of the 3 blocks. And then they come in with Yandere, and we are very happy about this. We'll take the Arcane, but now we end our opponent's turn by just giving them a Hypothermia. This dragon no longer has go again. Hypothermia does affect things retroactively. It's just the way these cards are Hypothermia and Snag work. I believe that was I think that was a CR 2.0 update, like one of the updates. So, Hypothermia just cares that this thing does not naturally have go again, and so, okay, it no longer has it now. But it's still coming at us for 3, and I want to conserve health. This hand is not something I want to take damage for. So I just go ahead and use one of my channels. And then I go ahead and use Waning Moon. One option was I hold the channel to activate card in its peak on my turn. Or the other option is I, pitch it to Waning Moon here, and I decide I prefer the Waning Moon plan. Because 3 damage is a lot, and, we saw the opponent pitch a red this turn, so maybe they just don't have the resources. They could have just been pitching a red for Ash, but yeah, I think I do need to, start getting in damage. Okay. And then they pitch 1 into the Frostbite that explodes at the end of their turn because of the Frost Hexes. They pitch 1 and prevent 1 of it. They're going to take 2 because it's 2 Frost Hexes. Okay, and they handle their Burn Them All trigger. So we just look through our opponent's graveyard. It's only going to be around for 1 more turn, so we're happy to see that. And we go to an Arsenal. Right, so again, no Phantasm Pauper. So at this point, I'm worried I'm going to draw like 3 of them together, and that just sucks. Because you really want blues. So I'm getting a little nervous about that. But, we still have the Hypothermia to end our opponent's turn, so. Alright, opponent starts with another Burn Them All. And we could respond to this with a Hypothermia, but I don't want to. I want them to commit to attacking with the dragon first, before I play it out. Because for all I know, like maybe they just CNC me after this. Or, if they see the Hypothermia, they might just change their plan to like a CNC on Erase Face. Yeah. So indirect comes in, I take the 2 Arcane, and then I respond with a Hypothermia. And then I'm deciding whether I want to de-react this and do the whole, de-react Waning Moon when they have 2 Frost Hexes on them. This one's, it's a little tough because I haven't seen my opponent pitch anything, so I kind of have, like, I can't even guess at how many resources they might have. But, in the end, they are Dromai. They are running fewer blues than, like, an average deck, so I think I decided to just de-react. The other thing is I do have Insidious Chill and Amulet of Ice on the field. So I can de-react, see how my opponent responds to Insidious Chill. Yeah, and then, decide whether I want to pop the Amulet of Ice and see whether I'll be able to stick some Frostbites on them. So again, the decision point here is what do I want to Arsenal on my turn? Do I want to Arsenal the Ice Eternal? Do I want to Arsenal the Cold Snap? And I end up choosing to Arsenal the Cold Snap, because I want to draw a card, because I need to desperately see a popper on the next turn, because I'm out of ways to like just end my opponent's turn. Arguably, Ice Eternal, if I put enough frostbites on them, ends their opponent's turn. But I don't have like E-pots on the field or something. Like if I do draw the poppers, and I'm just stuck with a bunch of reds, Ice Eternal doesn't put many frostbites on them, and then I'm really screwed. So Cold Snap is a safer play. So I go ahead and decide to Arsenal that and pitch the Ice Eternal. Opponent responds to the resolves the Insidious Chill trigger by discarding a card. So I guess that they don't have any more blues. They don't have blues, otherwise they would have just pitched it. And then I pop the Amulet of Ice so I can stick frostbites on them with the Waning Moon. So Amulet of Ice, they discard a card unless they pay 2. And they go ahead and pitch 2 reds, just as we expected. Go up to 5 Ash, and now we can use a 2 float to Waning Moon, coming in for 3. They have no choice but to take this because they have no floating. And they'll end the turn with 4 Frostbites, which will deal them another 8 from the Frost Taxes. And this is what I mean by, honestly, 2 Frost Taxes is usually enough of an endgame state for you to feel good. Of course, in this case, I did rely on being able to set up like Insidious Chill, Amulets of Ice earlier on. But yeah, if you have those 2 Frost Taxes, then fine. If you don't have those, you probably want all 3 Frost Taxes. Right, opponent gets rid of 1, burn them all, and keeps the other. And on my turn, I have the option of playing a Frosting to deal 1 damage to my opponent, or activating Chronon Speak. And I think Chronon Speak is just a much better thing to do. At this point, where if I stick a couple of Frostbites on them and Waning Moon them, they'll probably die. I just want to make sure I'm pressuring their hand instead of just coming in with like a 1 damage thing. Okay, and we finally drew our poppers, and like I said, we drew 2 of them at the same time, along with another red. So this does not feel good, but here's where I'm really glad that I Arsenal Cold Snap over Ice Eternal. There's another thing you kind of just need to do when you're playing Wizard in general, really. Just try and have a bit of an intuition of like what's left in your deck, and like what is like the probability of like what you're going to draw and the resources you're going to have. So if I had Ice Eternal in my arsenal with like a hand like this, I would feel so bad. Looking at this Frost Tax, I mean, 2 things here. First, it's the only blue in my hand, and secondly, my opponent's at 5. I've already committed at this point that this is just going to be a pitch card. I do not need to try and get this 3rd Frost Tax on my opponent to win this game. My opponent plays an Iyslander and they pitch a blue. Oh, yeah, I mean, at this point they have way like more than enough Ash. They do not need to care about pitching reds. Okay, and then they attack with the first Iyslander, and it's a bit hard for me to plan anything until I know what this Cold Snap's going to draw me. So I activate Tunic to play out this Cold Snap, and my opponent decides not to pay. I mean, of course, they're at this position where they need to conserve their resources for preventing my damage. So yeah, so I freeze the arsenal. Does Iyslander still coming at me? It is coming at me without Phantasm because of the Mirror guy. And, the sort of state of the game has sort of switched here, where like now I'm the aggressor. So I need to make sure, and I can use my life as a resource now, because if I threaten my opponent, they'll need to give me cards, and if they give me cards on my turn, on their turn they have fewer cards to deal with what I'm about to do. So I definitely take the 1 Arcane from Iyslander. I mean, I don't have Arcane Barrier regardless. And then go ahead and take it. Like I said, I'm going to use this is the sort of stuff I'm okay taking damage for. I know I'm going to use, 1 of my 6 attacks on the next dragon. And on my turn, I want to be able to present a decent amount of damage. So yep, go ahead and pop the next Iyslander that attacks us and our opponent's turn. Opponent did pay 1 to attack with that second Iyslander, which does pop the Frostbite. And then we have the option here to Waning Moon our opponent for 3. And again, this is just further planning, right? If I pitch say one of my cards to Waning Moon here, what I can do on my turn is play the Icebind and Arsenal a Cold Snap, so I will not Waning Moon on my turn. The alternative is I don't pitch a Frost Hex here. On my turn, I Icebind Fused and Waning Moon on my turn. Because remember, I don't want to Arsenal a CNC. It does nothing in my Arsenal. I want to Arsenal the Cold Snap. So really, the only cards I had was Icebind, Frost Hex. Yeah, but actually, yeah, just Icebind and Frost Hex. Which does let me, Icebind Fuse and then pitch the Waning Moon, which pressures more cards from my opponent on my turn, which is actually relevant. So it's arguable that I made a mistake there by pitching the Frost Hex in their turn. Of course, I was playing towards my opponent not having enough blues. Unfortunately, they did have the second blue, which is rare for a Dromai. So yeah, but they had it, so that's okay. But then yeah, then there's of course the other argument that, I just want to get the blues out of their hand, because if I didn't pitch it, they would probably, they're just holding on to it, and then they have a blue, they can block this Icebind. So we go ahead and Icebind Fused. This is coming in for 3, and this is going on our opponent, because our opponent at 5. And this, more than anything, this gives us information on what's in our opponent's hand. If our opponent pitches a blue, then, then we don't have information. But if they start pitching reds, which they are, now I know that the last card in the hand is also a red, so I'm basically kind of almost guaranteed to win on my turn. Yeah, pitch 3 reds and they get the 3 ash, which obviously doesn't matter at this point. They prevent all this damage. I will not pitch this Cold Snap to Waning Moon, because with this Cold Snap in my arsenal, I guarantee that I can Waning Moon on my opponent's turn, which is going to be a lot more relevant when that last card in the hand is a red. Right, opponent triggers Uvia. It's a scary Avian Dragons. And then they attack with Maragai, which does not have Go again, because they haven't played a red card. But, I do want to just try and kill my opponent here. Yep, so I go ahead and Cold Snap this, and yeah, Arctic Incarceration probably not going to do anything. If I want to Arsenal, anything on my turn is going to be the Aether Hail. So go ahead and pitch the Incarceration, give our opponent a Frostbite. They obviously choose not to pay. Yeah, because they need to conserve damage. And we draw a card, draw into it, now one of our poppers. So yeah, all our poppers are really just at the bottom of the deck. And then we go ahead and Waning Moon for 3. And we see whether, maybe there's a chance they pitch reds on my turn and just held on to a blue. Oh, yeah, we forgot about the Arcane trigger from the Miragai, which, I'll just go ahead and take right now. So opponent's deciding what to do about the Waning Moon, and they take 3, which leads me to believe that, yeah, so that it's basically confirmed that that's a red. And which means they can actually survive just the 1 Frostbite that's on them. So that's why I go ahead and Blizzard this Maragai. Even though it doesn't have Go again, I just Blizzard it because Islander's effect cares about you playing ice cards on your opponent's turn. Like, it'll give them a Frostbite because of that. So I give my opponent extra Frostbite just so they'll take an extra 2 damage from Frost Hex, and their 1 red in hand is not going to save them from the 4 damage those 2 Frostbites would deal. Then go ahead and take the Miragai damage, and, the game's over at the end of our opponent's turn. So, yeah, that was the game. It's definitely quite... it's difficult for Islander. It's like you need to jump through a lot of hoops, and you need to, draw your disruptive effects in sort of the right order to be able to do this. And it's also reliant that your opponent doesn't run Thors, which, they might not because of how favored it is for Dromai. If all those things come in line, then, your Islander has a chance in Dromai. So yeah, that was the game. Thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed it.